Welcome to the podcast, The Cam Johnson Story. Buckle up because this is going to be a pretty good one. And I realize we're talking about arguably the most famous player to ever come out of the scoring factory. Up until now, that is. Who knows? If you work crazy hard, you might be next. So if you're listening, pay attention and we're ready for you. I first met Cam a long time ago. So if you're from Pittsburgh, if you've been to Pittsburgh, there's a pretty good private school called Bishop Canevin. Kind of tucked away, old working class neighborhood. And back in the day, one of the players we trained, Antonio DeMaria, who was a heck of a player in his own right, played D1, played overseas. His dad was the head coach at Bishop Canevin at the time. And there used to be these private open runs. Not really open to the public, but pickup. But with really good college pro type guys. Or special invites, as you're about to find out. So I talked to Tony. He invites a bunch of our guys. And Tony's a special kind of guy. You know, one of those old school Italian guys. And Pittsburgh's full of second, third generation ethnic European type guys. And he was one of those basketball lifers that knew everybody. He ran some tournaments. He had been coaching forever. Just a good-hearted guy that loved being around the game. And everybody liked him. And he was proud, so proud of his son. I mean, I was proud of his son. His son busted his butt and worked hard and made it playing professionally overseas. He had a lot to be proud of. Not many people in Pittsburgh can say that. There's tons of talent here, tons of potential, but there's not too many examples of guys that have made it professionally. Not yet. There's more on the way, but not yet, because potential needs help. It takes a village. So Tony reaches out, and Tony used to come watch Antonio train with us. Grab a chair, slide it over into the corner. Not the type of guy to pick it up and gently place it either. You know, one of those guys that just kind of drags it like a scraping sound across the court. Always kind of worried about if he was leaving marks in the wood. But anyways, he'd drag it over to the corner, watch the first half hour or so. We'd look over later and he'd be knocked out, sleeping. But he loved being there. He loved watching his son. He loved being in the gym. Hot, cold, didn't matter. He just loved being in the gym. One of those type guys. So he calls me. We're talking. And he wants me to bring a bunch of really good players over so they have some good run. Keep in mind, an old school guy. That's what he knew. And the older I get, I'm starting to feel like an old school guy too. I love skill development. I love teaching. I love staying one step ahead of the game in terms of tactics, plays, actions, footwork. I love that stuff, but I miss the days when guys got together and just hooped. I grew up in Los Angeles, and those stories about the Magic Johnson games at UCLA, those are special. That's how you test yourself. So Tony wanted games like that, and that's something we're going to be bringing back to Pittsburgh soon. So for all you hoopers out there listening, be ready, because those days are coming back. So anyways, Tony reaches out, wants me to bring some guys over. We set a date, set a time, and it was my first time in the gym. And if you've been to Bishop Canevin, the wood's a little bit different, the grain, the setup, everything is a little bit special. But I'm happy as hell to be there and for these guys to get a chance to measure themselves. Because you can train all you want, and training's important. I don't want to discount that. Training's invaluable. You need that. But there's no such thing as professional one-on-one basketball. There's no such thing as one-on-one basketball in college. There's no scholarships to play one-on-one. And there's definitely no such thing as 1-0. They don't have that in college. Nobody's watching that on TV. So you need competition to measure yourself. Dribbling around cones, working on moves, perfecting your form. You need that. But then you need to test yourself. You need to play against another human because basketball is 5-on-5. You want to see how your skills fit into that. So anyways, we show up and bring a bunch of our scoring factory guys that we're training. And I'm talking about some talented dudes like Jakeem Donaldson, who was a monster, played D2, and I know some people out there think that D2 sucks, that it's D1 or bust. You don't have a chance to be a pro unless you play D1, 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 D1. That's all kids think. But it's about finding the right fit. And some players, they're not fully developed. They're not who they're going to be by the time they graduate high school. So Jakeem was one of those guys, wasn't ready, wasn't being recruited to play D1. So he went where he was wanted. And that's a very important point. He went where he was wanted. Went to college, developed, improved, and his story is remarkable. But I want to stress, everybody has their own path. Everybody's journey is a little bit different. Just because somebody took a left and then took a right doesn't mean you might not have to take a U-turn, another left, drive in a circle, whatever you have to do to get where you want to be. In basketball, there's a lot of different ways to get there. It's not a straight line from point A to point B sometimes. So work, do whatever it takes. And Jakeem is a perfect example of going where you're wanted, grinding, working, learning, getting better, getting stronger, improving, and working your way up the ladder. So if you're hungry and you want to accomplish something in basketball, you want to accomplish something in life, you have to work. And for some players, you might have to go JUCO. You might have to go prep school before that. You might have to transfer. That used to be frowned upon, but in the current state of college athletics, transferring's okay. There's something called the transfer portal. Go where you're wanted, do whatever you have to do to get where you want to be. And Jakeem ended up playing overseas, worked his way up, played in the ACB, the top league in Spain, arguably the best league in the world outside the NBA. Jakeem was phenomenal in so many ways. So you got Antonio, you got Jakeem, Bill Clark, another heck of a player, played at Duquesne, played overseas. Henry Puono, he's still playing overseas. Nick Novak, you get the idea. Tons of local underground Pittsburgh legends that went on and made money playing basketball. Not millionaires, but got paid money to play the sport and see the world. So here we are. We're at Bishop Canevin, and there's this one player in particular that we had. Not going to say any names, but he's a monster. Looks the part, 6'10", crazy athletic, 40-plus inch vertical, dunks everything, fresh out of D1, preparing, getting ready to go play overseas. And just by a weird twist of fate, ends up matched up with Jakeem. And if you didn't know any better, if you're just doing the eye test, you'd think that this guy would destroy Jakeem. And it was pretty even the first couple minutes. And I know we're talking about Cam Johnson. This is the Cam Johnson story, but this part of the story is very important because basketball IQ, knowledge, experience, those things can be passed down. Those things can help you stand out. And Cam was used to being in gyms with talented basketball players, with intelligent basketball players, with experienced basketball players. And things like that, when you're in the gym with guys like that, it rubs off on you, almost like it's contagious. So seeing the intelligence in action was amazing. And the Cam Johnson story can't be told without a lot of great Pittsburgh talent that shaped him along the way. Players, coaches, so many people went into helping shape his path, his journey, because it takes a village. It really does. But I want to stress that every path is different. So in that gym, that day, so as that game's going on, 5-on-5, Jakeem matched up against this monster, 6'10", crazy athletic, dunking everything. Big, powerful, strong, fast. It's interesting to see how the game unfolded. So the first couple minutes, it's pretty evenly matched. Jakeem against this guy. Couple more minutes goes by, and it's like Jakeem is almost like a basketball savant. Just really processes information well. Starts to figure out this guy's tendencies. Starts to figure everything out. So over the next couple minutes, Jakeem starts to do better. And in the last hour, Jakeem absolutely dominates. Steals post-entry passes, pump fakes, up and under footwork, extra pass, screens his own man. Just all the little things that don't always even show up on a stat sheet that help teams win. So Jakeem never gets off the court. So here we are in this process every weekend, going over there, playing at Bishop Canevin. And different guys are showing up. I'm meeting new people. You know, I'm still relatively new to Pittsburgh, and I meet new people, which is great. And the whole time, Tony DeMaria sitting in his chair, watching the proceedings, watching the games unfold before his eyes. For sure feeling proud of his son, who busted his butt and made it professionally, playing overseas. But for sure proud of the city, proud that some of the potential made it. So around session 2 or 3, this big dude walks in. One of those dudes where it just feels like he walked in the room and the spotlight was on him. You know what I mean? Have you ever seen somebody like that? They walk in the room, they command the room, and everybody kind of turns their head. Like, whoa, there's a different energy. There's a different presence. Brand new shoes, shiny jumpsuit, special walk, smiling, nodding his head, waving at people. Larger than life in every way. You know this dude's important. You could just tell. So he walks in, you know that shake where it's like, he's giving those out to people, where like it hurts your hand, one of those ones. Kind of like the bro hug, saying what's up to people he knows. So he's going around giving these loud handshakes, hurting people's hands for sure. Hopefully they knew it was coming. They were able to brace themselves at least. So I was getting ready to brace myself, but when it was my turn, we didn't know each other like that yet. He just gave me the business handshake. I wasn't mad though, because it saved my hand a good slap. And we start talking, and I'm like, nice to meet you. I'm Pete Strobl. He's like, yeah, I know who you are. I'm Gil Johnson. Little did he know, when I saw him walking in the gym, I'd already whispered to Tony, who's that guy? He said, oh, that's Gil Johnson. He's kind of loud, but he's a good dude. Just wait and see. So as we shake hands and I introduce myself, he's like, yeah, I know who you are. You know, it's like one of those type deals where it's like somehow it feels like an argument, even though we're just saying hello. And I notice in the corner, he's got a little kid with him. Not a baby, not like in a stroller or something like that, but a young dude. From far away, I couldn't tell if he was like 12, 13. It was hard to tell. And I'm thinking, man, that's not a bad idea. I should have brought my kids. Let them watch, let them learn, let them just kind of see these guys going back and forth, hooping, playing, arguing, sharpening their knives. Iron sharpens iron. You know what I mean? Because kids don't play enough. So I love the environment. And I'm thinking, wow, this dude Gil, that's cool. He brings his kids with him. Let them be around it. And as we're talking, small talk, the scoring factory, what do we do? Who do we train? Where, when, how? Kind of like I'm being interviewed, right? So out of the corner of my eye, I see that his son is putting on his sneakers. And I'm looking around. If you've been to Bishop Canevin, you know it's not a huge gym. It's not like it's a 3-court, 4-court facility or anything like that. There's not 1,000 baskets. It's one full court and like an auditorium type stage on the side. One of those old school type gyms. Perfect for what we were doing. But there wasn't tons of room for this kid to go shoot somewhere else. So I'm wondering, what's he doing? So I'm talking to Gil, talking to Tony. I feel like my interview's kind of done a little bit, so I'm kind of stepping aside to watch the games, seeing Jakeem do what he does, hearing Bill Clark yell at everybody, mad because somebody called a foul, calling him soft. Clearly wasn't enough blood to justify a foul. Just an ultra intense dude, a crazy competitive guy. You definitely knew when he was in the gym. Seeing Henry slither through traffic and do these weird up and unders that magically bank in. And then he smiles and acts like that's exactly what he meant to do. You know, guys having fun, guys working on their game, guys trying stuff, learning through trial and error, competing, playing high-level basketball. It was a nice type of energy in the gym. And that's missing in a lot of cities. And we need to get back to that. So this kid comes up to Gil, reaches out, shakes Tony's hand, and Gil says, hey, Pete, I want you to meet Cam. So I reach out my hand, we shake hands. He has good eye contact, good hard shake, polite, respectful, checks off all the boxes. And then Tony yells out, hey, what's the score? They yell out the score. And then he says, he's next. And I'm like, who? Cam? This kid? This kid's going to go out there and play with those men? Little skinny kid. Like, who is this kid? And when that game ended, sure enough, Cam gets on the court. Gil's looking happy. Gil's looking proud. Didn't brag to me yet. So Cam gets on the court, and this skinny little kid blended in. Didn't have a muscle on his body, but he blended in. Didn't force anything. You can see he had point guard type skills. He passed, he moved. Every once in a while, he got an open shot, and he nailed it. And I'm looking around like, who is this kid? So me and Gil start talking a little bit more. And I'm starting to figure out, just so you kind of have a picture in your mind, Gil was basically LeVar Ball before LeVar Ball. Had some sons that were good, that he knew were going to be good, that he believed in. Gil played back in the day, and he was loud. He was vocal. You knew he was in the room. One of those type guys. So I'm watching his son, and this dude can hoop. He's skinny, he's young, he's small, but you can tell that he's skilled, and you can tell that he's really smart. Nothing physically special. You know those old pictures of Curry, C.J. McCollum in high school? Looks like they're in like 7th grade or something like that playing against men. If not, look those up. Go Google that. Great pics. The type of pics that can motivate you to figure out my son doesn't have to be built like Hulk Hogan just to have a chance to play high school basketball. Sometimes it feels like that in Pittsburgh because it's a football type town. So the dudes that spend the most time in the weight room, the dudes that dive on the floor, the dudes that run people over, the dudes that are crashing into the bleachers, coaches like those guys. And here's Cam, skinny, small, but performing. You can see that there is talent there. And keep in mind, he's on the court with pros. Guy's making money. It's not like he's just playing with high schoolers. He's on the court with pros. That's pretty special. So next thing you know, after the game, Gil and I are talking. He wants me to train him, calls Cam over, make sure we get to know each other a little bit more. And we got to work that week. And this is back in the day when we were at this old gym on the 5th floor of an old private club, right in Oakland, cross street from Pitt, the PAA. kind of dirty, kind of dusty, floor's a little bit slippery, lighting's not great, and it's hot as hell or cold as hell, depending on the season. Whatever it was outside, it just magnified it. Insulation wasn't great, walls are falling apart, some of the windows are broken. When it rained, you knew it, not because you can hear it, you knew it because there's a drip somewhere. One of those type gyms. It was awesome. It made you appreciate going to a really nice gym after that. And if you ever want to play in Madison Square Garden, some historical arena somewhere, some amazing gym, you're going to get there because you grinded. You're going to get there because you worked your butt off. You're going to get there because you paid your dues. So I love the PAA because of that. And all the players that came through there, from Cam Johnson to DJ Kennedy to Akita McLean to Jakeem Donaldson to all these players that came through there, I'm sure they have very fond memories of grinding and paying their dues in that gym. It was a special place, a special time. And I don't want to get too nostalgic, but there's a lot of beautiful memories that I still have of grinding in that gym. And I think all players look back to the court, the playgrounds, wherever you spent thousands of hours working on your craft. That's what shapes us. That's what makes you appreciate it when you get to play in a sold out arena with fans going nuts, cheering, screaming, noise. It all started somewhere. You paid your dues somewhere. And we worked like crazy. I mean, when you talk about a kid working, this dude worked. This dude wanted it. He wanted to work in his weaker hand. And Cam already had skills, but his dad had the foresight to know if I can put him in the gym with people that have been there, done that, that can teach, that can explain, that can push him, he wanted that. And just like most kids, at some point in time, they have to hear it from somebody other than their parents. So Gil played, and Gil worked with his son for sure. But he knew that to really reach the next step, Cam had to hear from some other voices. Voices that Gil trusted, that he respected, and that he knew can help his son. Because at the end of the day, that's all he really wanted. So we worked. We worked at the PAA. We worked at the YMCA in the Hill District. And Cam was in the gym with dudes like DeJuan Blair, Lucky Jones, another great player out of Robert Morris, David Kramer, now killing in the Champions League. David was the type of dude you give him a weekend passing drill. One of those drills where it's like you dribble behind your back twice and then throw with your weaker hand off the wall. David would literally try to put a hole in the wall because he wanted it so bad. And that's why he's where he's at today. So Cam was in the gym with guys like that. Too many European pros to name. Working, absorbing, learning, and figuring out what it takes to play at a high level. And his coach, his high school coach, Mike Rodriguez, who's won countless games and championships, that dude opened up his gym. We were at Olsh all the time, getting shots, working on footwork, working on his passing, working on cutting, working on relocating, working. And I got to give his high school coach a lot of credit. I got to give Mike a lot of credit because most high school coaches, when a player grows, and Cam did, he just gradually grew and grew and grew. As Cam got older, he let him continue to bring the ball up. He took advantage of his guard skills instead of limiting him and saying, hey, you're the tall guy, go get all the rebounds. Stand underneath the basket. That's your job now. How many basketball careers has that killed? Just that, forcing big guys to stay near the basket at a young age, not knowing that they might develop, not helping their development. So Cam was lucky. So Cam had a good situation. And I remember one game against Lincoln Park, who was stacked, as they always are. If you're from Pittsburgh, you know that Lincoln Park is always stacked. They always have talent. Nobody knows where they come from. And people always complain about recruiting or where do these players come from that bust in from who knows where. But they always have talent. Always. Always D1 kids, always high level. And in this game, with all this talent on the floor, you know who shined? Maybe the most? Cam. And this is about the time when I started believing Gil even more. He had always told me how amazing Cam's going to be, but it was like, it's becoming obvious now. But Cam was still very much an unknown. There's people in Pittsburgh that knew who he was, thanks to Gil, or the people that he trained with and against, people through the scoring factory knew him. His coach sung his praises. But outside of that, he was still very unknown. He wasn't a project. He was just unknown, an unknown commodity on the college basketball landscape. But Gil believed, and he made sure anybody around him heard about it. And rightfully so, because Gil was loud. Gil was telling me he's going to make it, he's going to be this, he's going to be that. And when you see a skinny little kid, especially the first time going against pros, it's kind of hard to process that. It's kind of hard to believe that. It's kind of hard to think, how can this guy see so far into the future? What are you, Nostradamus? You should just go to Atlantic City or Las Vegas if you have all that future knowledge. But I have to say, Gil was right. And over time, everybody started to believe. because Cam produced. He didn't do anything spectacular. He wasn't out there jumping from the free throw line. He wasn't loud. He wasn't obnoxious. And this is all kind of pre-social media. Not because social media didn't exist. Just there wasn't a lot of hype around Cam. There wasn't a lot of hype around basketball in Pittsburgh. It was a different time and place. There weren't reels and all that kind of stuff coming out every day about kids coming out of Pittsburgh. I know that's hard to imagine now, but it was a different time. Kids scrolling up and down, checking their phone for the latest scores, the latest dunks, highlights, who did what, where, when. They can see that now. But back then, that didn't exist. And Cam was out there just hooping, winning, but he didn't have any offers. Think about that. All this talent, all this skill, working his butt off, no college offers. And eventually, through a friend of a friend of a friend, somebody at Rice heard about him, and they offered, which kind of put Pitt on notice. And somewhere there, they started thinking, hey, what are we missing with this kid? A local guy, a local product, who's in our backyard. His dad played here. So eventually Pitt offered, and probably didn't even know what they had. But then Cam did what Cam does. Cam worked, he improved, he got better, he got stronger, and he stayed true to who he was. And keep in mind, the PAA is right around the corner. So we're in the gym, constantly working. He's coming over after class. He's coming over, getting extra shots, working on his footwork, working on his pump fakes, working on the side step, because everybody knew he can shoot a little bit. So pump fake, take one dribble, step to the side, splash. The dude was a worker. He wasn't the type of dude to ask questions to be disrespectful. You know what I mean? Like when you're in a workout, player has a question like, Coach, why does my right foot need to be here? Coach, why do I need to look here, get low, or pivot on this foot? Those are good questions. Cam had those types of questions because he was smart. He was processing information, but he never questioned anything else. He didn't wonder, why do I have to make 30 of these in the corner? Why do you want me to land this way? Why does my pinky need to go here? He just did it. He was a perfect student. I'm sure every coach he's ever had, wherever he's been, they probably miss him. They probably wish all their players were like Cam because he worked, because he listened, because he stayed true to who he was. And at this time, nobody could have anticipated that he would get to where he was going to go. Otherwise, Duke, Kentucky, and whoever else, they would have snapped him up coming out of high school. So Pitt was lucky to have him. We can say that now, but at the time, Cam was lucky to have Pitt, and he didn't take it for granted. He just worked. And over time, the main thing with Cam was making sure that he understood that it didn't matter what anybody else thought. Just believe in yourself. Just work. You can do it. Fight for it. You want it? Take it. So as much as we did physically, there was a lot of mental work. And there's a lot of benefits to private training. Just for all the parents out there, for all the players out there. You see video clips all the time of the Kyrie Irvings of the world, of the Jason Tatums of the world. All these guys working with a trainer. They're so good. They're so talented. They're already pros. Why do they need somebody else showing them what to do? There's physical benefits for sure. Learning new techniques, getting reps, improving footwork. But there's a mental side to it. And I don't want to say a great trainer is a little bit of a psychologist, but there's definitely psychology involved to keep the players on track, to build trust, to make sure, despite any adversity that comes in their path, they keep working, they keep fighting, they keep believing. So Cam worked. And then from Pitt, he transferred to the University of North Carolina and had to deal with all the hate that came with that. All the Pitt fans, all the Pittsburgh fans telling him you should have stayed here. We recognized your talent. We gave you a chance and nobody else would. He had to deal with all that. And that couldn't have been easy. I can tell you right now, that wasn't easy for him. But you know what? It helped prepare him for his future path. It gave him thicker skin, that's for sure. And he used it as fuel to his fire. You got to respect that. That wasn't the easy thing to do. And sometimes adults, fans, have all these really loud opinions about what kids are doing, what parents are doing for their kids. You see it all the time. You hear about it all the time now with the transfer portal. But even kids leaving high school, they all have their own reasons. And they're just trying to put themselves in a better position to reach whatever their dreams and goals are. They're trying to do what's right for their family. You have to respect that. Move on. Wish them luck. Wish them well. Or talk your trash on Twitter with your anonymous accounts. If that's what makes you feel cool, if that's what makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside, do you. But you should just wish the kid well and move on. Cam didn't leave to spite anybody, but an opportunity opened up. Who wouldn't want to play for UNC? And then eventually got drafted 11th in the 2019 NBA draft by the Timberwolves. He was traded on draft night to the Phoenix Suns, but he was drafted 11th. 11th. And a couple years before that, he didn't even have any offers, no scholarship offers. And if you want all the stats and dates and details, you can just Google them. Go on ESPN, go on Wikipedia. All that information's there. But I just want to shed some light about what he's like behind the scenes, what led to him getting where he got, because it's a special story. A kid like that, not a 7-foot behemoth, not a Michael Jordan, not a LeBron James type guy, a guy that worked, a guy that was skilled, a guy like that goes on to make millions of dollars playing basketball. Think about that. This kid that basically had no offers coming out of high school, but he worked, he believed. And at the time, leading up to the draft, I was coaching in Germany. And a bunch of my friends from the NBA called, wanted intel. That's what they call it, intel, quote unquote, intel. They wanted information about him. What was he like? What was his work ethic? How was he around other players? How was he behind the scenes? And he checked off all the boxes. He's a fantastic human. He works, he's polite, he's respectful, he's a good guy. And I told him he was the purest shooter they'd ever see. And one of my good friends kind of laughed. I go, what? He's a 6'8" Steph Curry? And I said, yeah, look at his form. Look at his release. Look how smooth. Cam Johnson has one of the most beautiful shooting forms on earth. That's his greatest strength. Doesn't have a ton of weaknesses, but that's by far his greatest strength. So eventually he gets drafted, and the rest is history. I mean, this past summer he played for Team USA. What a huge honor. Gold medal around his neck, representing Pittsburgh. And the moral of the story, the part that I want to stress upon you as a parent, as a player, as a coach, his work ethic, his belief in himself. You want to surround yourself with people that teach you to believe in yourself, that teach you the value of hard work. And through it all, he remained a good person, somebody the community can be proud of. Eventually, they should build a statue of him or something around here. Because have you ever heard of any issues with him? An NBA player at the highest level, producing, performing, playing on national TV, making millions. No issues. Just swishes, extra passes, solid team defense. For sure, a highlight dunk here and there. Go Google his dunk over PJ Tucker, or better yet, the one on Embiid.
Sixers are out of fouls. Johnson teeing off, puts it down. That was vicious.
He's had some good ones, some sneaky ones, where you least expect it. And Pittsburgh has talent. Nobody thought Cam would make it to the NBA. And look at T.J. McConnell, another role model in every way. And there's more to come. There's a lot of talent here. So if you're a player out there, if you're a player listening to this, don't listen to anybody that tells you you can't make it. You can make it. What does make it mean? Does it mean get drafted 11th in the NBA draft? Who knows? It might, but you'll never find out unless you work, unless you give everything you possibly have. And surround yourself with people that also feel that way, that believe in you, that teach you to believe in yourself. But you have to outwork people. And when things feel difficult, when things feel hard, keep working. So for sure, this is a huge shout out to the special path of Cam Johnson. But a lot of those players who put in the work have created their own path, their own journey. And that just might be you. As long as you believe in yourself and continue to work. Come get some.